What's going on, everybody? C4, welcome back to the channel. Let's go, Birds! 28-22, the Philadelphia Eagles beat the LA Rams in an iconic Snow Bowl NFC divisional round matchup at the Link. I mean, this game should have been over when Saquon Barkley had that 78-yard touchdown. Like, I had to apologize to my family upstairs. Things were being said. Things were being yelled down here after that moment. And then right after that, Matt Stafford, a top 5 quarterback in the league. Yes, he's 5, but he's still top 5. Just methodically, boom, touchdown Rams. Pressure's on the Eagles. And unfortunately for Philadelphia today, Jalen Hurts was terrible. Did get injured. Are we gonna, it looked bad. Looked like he rolled his ankles, holding his knee, had to put a brace on. But Jalen Hurts was not good. But even worse than Jalen Hurts was Kellen Moore's play calling. I sure hope Kellen Moore got the most out of those 3 head coach interviews this week, because he did not look locked in. The only thing was, like, thank God Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is the only reason why we were in this game. He's the only reason why we won this game. And I hope Kellen Moore got no more interviews, because that was terrible. We are going to need to be a lot more efficient and call a lot smarter situational plays against the Commanders next week at home. So hopefully he gets locked in. But, man, oh, man, when Puka made that over-the-shoulder catch on Slay and made it like goal to go, wasn't feeling hot, wasn't feeling good. Got the same kind of feeling from the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. You know, went into halftime feeling real good in that matchup, and then it was gone. Gone in a blink of an eye. It just felt unfair. And that Puka catch, ridiculous throw from Matt Stafford, felt unfair. But you know what? You know who the most unfair player is? You know who the most overpowered, needs nerf from the league player there is? Not Mr. Jared Verse. Not how Eagles fans suck. No, I'm going to hit my thumbs down on the Hail Mary in the first half. Doesn't really matter. No. Jalen Carter, baby, takes this game over. Give him a game ball. Decides, I'm just going to maul this center. I'm going to destroy Stafford. I'm gonna smash him. And you look rattled. That next throw was just out of bounds on 4th down. He was rattled. He was out of it. Jalen Carter. Oh, man. I've been thinking. It's between. Do I got to get a Saquon Barkley jersey next or a Jalen Carter? I'm leaning Jalen Carter, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, you might have to get one of each. Who knows? But this game was us. I thought a lot of people last night on the social medias, when Detroit lost, and it became, if Philly wins, we host the NFC Championship game. Everyone, not everyone, but it felt like a large segment of y'all were like, man, Rams, we'll handle the Rams. It's going to be in the snow. And cakewalk to the championship game. Rams are good. Rams have the skill position players that line up with but maybe their lines aren't the best. But Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, DeMarcus Robinson, Central Florida Gators, Kyron Williams, Matt Stafford, a top 5 quarterback. You got McVay, who's one of the best coaches in the league. This was never going to be an easy game. And to give flowers where flowers are due, man, Matthew Stafford is an unreal player. Puka's pretty badass. Jared Verse, even though you meme Jared Verse, I mean, he was unreal. Had that huge pancake block on Mekhi Becton, knocked him on his butt, and got a big time, was it a sack or a TFL or something like that? So, I mean, they got good players. I mean, for the Rams, for a team, an organization that just hasn't really built their team the traditional way, hasn't had premier picks, haven't spent crazy in free agency, got to give credit where credit's due. I feel like they're definitely one of those franchises that they have their star players, and they're just making the most of all their depth. And they're a well-run team. They're a well-built team. But ultimately, this was all about the Eagles. Eagles had to win this game. The pressure was on the Eagles to win this game, especially in these conditions at home for the team that runs the football. And offensively, Saquon Barkley, he played the Rams twice this year, has over 500 yards in 2 games against the Rams. I'm sure they don't want to ever see Saquon Barkley again for as long as McVay is there as the coach of the Rams. Saquon, incredible. A++ performance. Jalen Hurts scrambling before he got hurt, had that 44-yard touchdown run on the first drive. That was electrifying. I thought Jalen did some solid throws, but, after the injury, and there was just the same kind of, it's not like it's new, it's not like it just recently developed, but just way too long holding the football. And the sack that he took on the Eagles' last offensive, it's just unacceptable. Is it play calling? Is it Jalen Hurts? Is it a mix of both? Kind of just fair to go under the assumption that it's a mix of both. You got to play better. You're not going to be able to beat Cliff Kingsbury's offense right now, the way that they're playing with Jalen. We're going to have to play. We're going to have to throw the football to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, who have been pedestrians through our first 2 playoff games. So that's going to be interesting, especially now. Hurts coming to that game limping a little bit. You got Luvu on the Commanders, like super dirty player. Good player. I like him, but let's be honest. You know, if you told Frankie Louvu, you go through door A and you make a big hit, you go through door B, you make a big hit and you hurt somebody, he's going through door B every single time, and you need those guys on your team. I don't think Jalen Carter probably would also go through door B in that situation. But we have the history there with Louvu. So we have that to be considered, with Jalen Hurts kind of limping into that matchup a little bit. But we'll talk about that at the end of the video. Let's recap this matchup. So Jalen Hurts, I think C's a fair. He didn't turn the football over. I feel like with everything that did not look great from a passing offense standpoint, he still at least didn't turn the football over. You know, we saw Jordan Love last week with Green Bay, you know, not going his way, but he was turning the football over. And that's kind of the difference between Jalen Hurts. And you got to give Jalen Hurts some credit for how he scrambled today, which was plus. That was plus. So I think ultimately give him a C, but if this is what we're getting, if this is the passing offense and where it's at in these playoffs, you got to feel real worried about that going into next week. They have to have a make right. And, you know, we got the talent to do so. It's just, can they go out there and execute it? Run game, Saquon Barkley, 205 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Also had 27 yards through the air. The 230-yard performance, A+. Incredible. We would not be here without Saquon Barkley. Which, going into the last offseason, when, like, Saquon wasn't really valued, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs. I played running back. I've always had a soft spot for running backs. I always want running backs to get paid and all these different things. But still, even then, if you told me we got I wouldn't have thought that Saquon would have carried us to a Super Bowl. Like the day that we signed him, I thought Saquon was going to be a shiny, luxurious, running back option. It's like, all right, well, when we're done throwing it to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, get ready. Saquon's Saquon's the third head of that trio. Little did I think he was going to be Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer at the front of the pack, dragging this team to an NFC Championship game. So I love that the running back position is back on top. It is king. Would be nice if still somehow out of the blue you give Saquon Barkley the MVP. But he's my MVP, A+ for him today. For the receivers, snow game. The only thing that pissed me off was, and this is going to be, not just focusing on the Eagles, because you can't really throw I give a C. A.J. Brown had like 2 drops, 1 on a touchdown that was brutal. He had probably one of his worst games in a very long time for the Philadelphia Eagles. Wasn't a whole lot there for Devontae Smith. Caught all 4 of his targets. Dallas Goedert, 4 catches on 4 targets, 56 yards. So like the passing game was efficient, but overall, you don't want to dog these guys because that wasn't how we decided we were going to win. I think that's just a frustrating thing. Is like, you look at the receivers between these two teams, very similar talent, S-tier talent. And when the Rams had to throw the football, they were throwing the football. When Philly should be throwing the football, they just couldn't get it going. That's just the frustrating part of this. And I think that definitely falls on Jalen Hurts not having a good game. And it falls on the play calling, man. It's been all season long. 3rd and 8+. We're fucking running it every single time. And sometimes, I think like 1 or twice, Saquon broke off a big run or Kenny Gainwell might get 10 yards. For the love of God, we have a Heisman Trophy winning wide receiver, Devontae Smith, who, if he's healthy, 1,000-yard player. We have A.J. Brown, who's all-pro. If he's out, juggernaut, debatably the 3rd best wide receiver in the league. Why do we never give these guys a chance? When the Rams need it, Kyren Williams is a good player. Kyren Williams had 100 yards. But when the Rams need it too, they're like, oh, we got to go to Puka. We got to go to Cooper Kupp. Those are the guys that were featured on that got-to-have-it last drive. But on the Philadelphia Eagles, got-to-have-it, let's close this out drive. Their last offensive drive after the Rams score the touchdown. We're calling plays like Kenny Pickett's out there, like a backup quarterback. Don't let them make a mistake. Just run the football and see what happens. And trust your defense. Luckily, we have a very good defense. And when you go into that defeatist mindset of like, oh, we'll just trust the defense, usually our defense can bail us out. But it's so incredibly frustrating from a Jalen. We know, even if you hate Jalen Hurts, even if you meme on Jalen Hurts, he is good enough to throw the football to these stars. And that was my one kind of negative takeaway from the Eagles receiving core to the Rams receiving core. And it's not falling on the shoulders of just the wide receivers and tight ends. It's, the offense as a whole. But it's so frustrating when you see a team trust their playmakers versus Philadelphia, which just feels like this second half of the season, we just have no trust. We're like, oh, we'll just run Saquon. It's very frustrating to watch, especially for me at those 3rd and longs. Defense for Philadelphia, A+. Really, outside of that drive where they just, after the Saquon run, that was terrible. That was just, they looked exhausted, looked gas. Like, there was, literally 2 plays Milton Williams wasn't set. It was just, halfway on the ground. Wasn't pretty. Did not look good. In this matchup, Quinyon Mitchell left during injury queue. It was kind of vague. It was a shoulder. I'm not like super up to. I mean, those people that probably like are like fantasy football injury reports. I might be able to tell you like a shoulder injury and make an assumption. I mean, we kind of need him. Luckily, we have insane depth at corner. Like, I honestly, like, if you threw, it was like a combo of Isaiah Rodgers and Keely Ringo, you could have a lot worse options. You know, we've got through a lot of shit corners here in Philadelphia that I would much rather take Isaiah Rodgers and or Keely Ringo out there than, like, you know, your Kerry Williams, your, you know, I don't want to dog him, but, you know, Bradbury's and stuff like that. Like, we need Q back. Quinyon Mitchell back would be very frustrating if he's out, even for a game. You know, it might be one of those deals where if we make the Super Bowl, he can return. I mean, that's just assuming at this point. But, I mean, Nolan Smith had the sack. Cooper DeJean made some plays, locked up Cooper Kupp pretty much all day. Reed Blankenship, CJ GJ, Slay was awesome. I mean, that's kind of just been my unpopular opinion. It seems like a lot of Eagles fans, especially with the podcast, and obviously he's regressed a little bit, have kind of turned on Slay a little bit. He's older. You know, he's not going to lock down the entire side of the field the whole game, but I've definitely felt like even in his bad games this year, he still kind of gets more than he gives up. Like, he might give up 70-some yards, but he still have like 2-3 PBUs that'll be important throughout the game. So Slay has been incredible during this playoff run. Zach Bond is blank check territory at this point. First team All-Pro. Had the fumble recovery, had a huge TFL that forced a punt late in that game on Kyron Williams. He's blank check territory. It's literally like from now on, you know, you got Mekhi Becton, Milton Williams, Kenny Gainwell, all these guys that you could warrant how you're going to think about how, especially Howie Roseman, the salary cap wizard, how we're going to get all these guys under contract. I think first, you know, nothing happens until Zach Bond gets signed. Because remember last couple years ago, we like made Bradbury sign because CJ GJ was kind of waiting, and then we ended up losing on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson because like, oh, well, we paid Bradbury first. Like, Zach Bond gets paid, and then you figure out everybody else. That is what needs to happen. He is transformative on this defense. Oren Burks, maybe a couple times get picked on, but for the most part, for a guy stepping in for the injured Kobe Dean, he had 10 total, 6 tackles there, 2 TFLs, had a big PBU on third down. I mean, he's stepping up. This is a guy that got exposed last year in the playoffs with the 49ers coming in for Greenlaw. But that's still experience. That is valuable experience that him coming into a moment like this, maybe that gives him some added confidence. But game ball is Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter, 5 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 TFLs, and a PBU, hit the quarterback 3. He's unblockable. He is literally a machine. And knowing in this matchup that the biggest weakness and strength kind of difference is going to be the Rams O-line against the Eagles D-line. They are just completely overmatched, and Jalen Carter took that game over, baby. He is so freaking good. Thank you, Chicago Bears, for letting us get Jalen Carter. And, A+ overall for the defense. Game ball, Jalen Carter. Saquon gets it. And, best, you know, shout out to the Rams. Hell of a game. Awesome game. Takes 2 to tango to make a very memorable game. So for that, I will give them credit. But now the Philadelphia Eagles shift their focus towards the Washington Commanders. Game 3. You know, not to make excuses right out of the gate. Really want to see that status there, Quinyon Mitchell. I'm sure we probably won't find anything out till like Tuesday or Wednesday. I mean, it's going to be a big game. It's going to be a big game. They're hot. I think pound for pound, Philadelphia is a considerably more talented roster than the Commanders. But the Commanders are hot. They're the Cinderella team. 2 in a row, got Bucks, got the Lions. I mean, they can play with anybody. And even though the story and the context around that second game against the Commanders where we lost was very clearly because Philly we were destroying them. That game was getting ready to be incredibly one-sided and over before halftime. Then Jalen Hurts got hurt. Then we had Kenny Pickett. And even though we still had 4 turnovers in that game, Kenny Pickett couldn't get any points off those turnovers. Yada, yada, yada. That was the story. But still, the Commanders, they were able to move the football when they had to in that game to win the game. They can find ways to move football on the defense. That is what needs to be of a concern because if we're down Quinyon Mitchell, we're down to Kobe Dean from that last matchup, it's going to be that much more difficult. But that is going to be an awesome game. I never thought there would be an NFC East battle. Winner goes to the Super Bowl. I mean, I would think most of the neutral fans are going to be chopping on Philly because, let's be honest, if somebody, you look at Commanders, you look at Philly, who could beat the Chiefs? It's very clearly only one of those teams. So I do think we're going to have a lot of neutral fans chilling for the Eagles on this one. But I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. Probably an all-timer for post-game grades and reaction, win or lose on that one. So you're not going to want to miss it. But that is for another week. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this matchup. Who gets your game ball for the Philadelphia Eagles? How do you feel about the Commanders matchup in the NFC Championship game? Let me know in the comment section below. If it is your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Until next time, it's your boy C4. Say peace out, love ya, and go Birds!